Quick, Evan, we have an impromptu dinner party and no food to cook.
Don't worry, I'll run around it.
That solves nothing. Oh man, we just ran here from the future.
If you haven't already seen the first and second episode of The Flash, please be sure to do that before you listen to the rest of this podcast.
Okay, now we need to run back to the future. Should we take the track or the road?
Where we're going, we don't need roads. Hey there, fandom buddies. I'm Evan Atwood.
And I'm Daniel Sullivan.
And I'm Barry Allen.
And I'm Wally West.
We're both Flashes.
We are the Flash.
We're Flashers.
Flash.
Wait, that's a different... Oh, goodness.
In accordance with state law, we are none of the things we just said.
Except for our actual names.
So, we're talking about all things The Flash. If you have been in the world of fandom and you have the CW or you have the internet, The Flash premiered last week. The pilot of The Flash spinning off from the Arrow series.
Yep, and so we are going to be discussing our first and second impressions as we have watched both the first and second episodes.
So that's where the second impression comes from.
That's
second episode.
That's how I understand language.
That's how numbers.
So now, to start off, pilot episode. Dan, your thoughts? Tell them to me quickly.
The pilot episode of The Flash was an idea. To me, I was more stoked about the series than I was about the pilot. The pilot felt like they had shot possibly a 2-hour premiere and then cut it up really bad into an hour show. And it was a little disjointed. And not a lot happened.
Now, I completely agree that it seemed a little bit like there was parts missing.
Yep.
I don't think it was a bad pilot. I enjoyed it, definitely, so I think we have a differing opinion there. But I do feel like they made a okay pilot with really good footage.
That's a good way to put it. Now, mind you, I enjoyed the pilot, but I think in kind of a different way. Because I remember we talked about this. I felt like I was really excited for the show and sort of muscled through the pilot.
Well, yeah, it was still fun.
It was fun. It just was not a good pilot, in my opinion. It was, and like I said, I was excited for the show. Luckily, The Flash has the entire standing series of The Flash behind it. So it wasn't like I was watching a pilot going, it's like, oh, what the hell else is going to happen? Because I know
of course. Like, I wonder if Barry Allen is ever gonna... Oh, wait.
Oh, lightning. There it is.
Spoiler alert. He gets hit by lightning and is the Flash now. Yeah, I definitely didn't feel like I had to muscle through it. But there was definitely some areas of the pilot that I felt like there were maybe some transition scenes that they had to cut out for time. It did seem as though characters kind of wound up in different situations very quickly without really any explanation.
I know you're talking about the Ferris Air scene.
Yeah, they just kind of like, oh, guess what? We're testing Barry Allen's powers now.
Which, by the way...
We weren't talking about it before, but we're doing it now.
One of the things I'll post on the Fandom Workshop page, make sure and check it out, is the 26 Easter eggs you probably missed in the Flash pilot.
Yeah, as proud as I am for catching a majority of them, there definitely were a few that slipped right by me.
There's some good stuff in there. Definitely check that out after you listen to our voices.
Yep.
But so let's do a quick overview. Following straight off of Barry Allen's first appearance came in an episode of Green Arrow, or a couple of episodes.
Yeah, Barry Allen appeared in a few episodes during an arc of the Arrow series about Green Arrow on the CW, and they had already established that they were going to be doing a Flash series, but I think just fan reactions to the actor they chose to portray Barry Allen were fantastic. I know as soon as
the Flash pilot opened up to like record-breaking ratings.
Yeah, which has been just wonderful over the past week. You know, we've been hearing nothing but positive things from everybody about how much they loved the Flash pilot as well. Now that we've gotten into the second episode, we're continuing an amazing theme. The show is continuing to be wonderful, and I think that now that they got the pilot origin story stuff
out of the way,
we're really starting to get into some more really really interesting story material without having to focus too much on explaining away the Flash technicality stuff.
Which I feel like this second episode too, because I love the second episode. I thought it was really awesome. They seemed less gun shy with their humor and everything. It seemed like all, a pilot episode, you really got to set the premise and you got to, establish the rules of your universe. And the pilot episode seemed to do that. And like I said, it felt like it was 2 hours that got cut into 1 hour.
Yeah.
The pilot episode was almost entirely all just setting ground rules. In fact, it seemed like there was very little
They were establishing they were doing world building stuff that any pilot, has to do. But now that we, started into the second episode, I mean, it literally opens up with, hey, I'm Barry Allen. This is the part where I would normally do the here's my story stuff, but you already know all that. Hey, look, there's me going fast, which is great. And I think those cheeky comedy openings, I think fit the feel for The Flash as a series, which that's another thing I wanted to discuss was the feel of the show. I mean, it is
very different from Arrow.
Yeah, it's a CW program set in the same universe that Arrow takes place, but it is so vastly different in tone and feel, which is wonderful.
Less brooding.
Yeah, infinitely less brooding, which is actually one of the things that I really liked when they had Barry Allen appear as a character on Arrow, because when he was there, he brought this amazing lightness to that series, which had otherwise been very, very, very dark and brooding. And as soon as I kind of saw that happening, I got really excited and very hopeful for the Flash as a series, because it was able to keep that sort of lightness to it. Now, I'm not saying it's all sugar candy canes.
Sugar and candy canes and happiness and winged unicorns and...
That would be a Pegasus with a horn.
And candy corn and...
Candy corns. That's like a unicorn, but made out of delicious sugary
I can't
treats.
think of anything...
Anyway, that aside, no, it was. There's definitely the darker moments of the Flash, but it is overall hopeful.
Hopeful is a term I would definitely use. Lighthearted for the most part.
Yeah, and I feel like that fits the character of the Flash and how the Flash, Barry Allen's Flash, fit into the DC comic universe as well.
Mm-hmm.
He always was that character that kind of represented an air of hopefulness. Even in the Justice League and going into the, intricate details of the Blackest Night story arc that they did a while back.
Great arc.
It was a great arc. And Barry Allen, who had, come back from the dead basically at that point, was instilled with the Blue Lantern ring. So he was an avatar for hope. And I think that fits.
What's cool about this, too, is that actually when I think about it geographically, when I think about hope from a geographic standpoint...
as we are all often want to do.
I think about hope from a geographic standpoint, and I think about water from a mathematical standpoint, and I think about...
You think a lot of things. Not all of them are right or good.
But Barry Allen is from Central City, which is right next to Keystone City.
That is correct.
Which is representative of the Twin Cities.
Yep.
And it's in Missouri. And you're kind of, this is all in Missouri because thank God for DC, they just refuse to use real places, but they do, Gotham, Chicago, and Metropolorkopolis.
Yep. New Metropolork.
Coast Marin City.
Yeah.
But with Barry Allen being the character of the Midwest, that almost seems fitting to the whole thing, where it's like you've got the brooding eastern seaboard, Green Lantern is on the West Coast facing the frontier, and then a little bit more lighthearted in the center of America.
Yeah, it's got a little heartland sensibility. For being filmed in, I think, Montreal, for the most part.
Where things are filmed.
Yeah, where all things are filmed.
No, that's Vancouver.
Oh, it's true.
Boston, California.
Canada for the most part.
But
that's a little film behind the scenes magic trivia for you.
You're welcome.
A lot of filming in Canada.
What's nifty too, this is an Easter egg that I'm so excited about. They reference this in the Arrow when Oliver Queen is dating McKenna, and spoilers, she's shot. And she has to move. She's going to move to Coast City for her rehab, in which I got super excited. And then immediately in the pilot of The Flash, they have this whole scene that takes place at Ferris Air. Both things alluding to Green Lantern, which they are doing a great job at building the DC universe in CW. And one of the things that's so cool about that transition is that with the transferring from Arrow to The Flash, it's a huge different tone as far as just what's acceptable in the universe. Now, it's CW, mind you, so there's definitely liberties taken, but Arrow has all been focused on basically acrobatics and archery. This introduces more of a flair for the fantastic. And also, this show introduces the concept of metahumans, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, they only kind of briefly started touching that on the later parts of Arrow, and it felt like for a long time, and this kind of worried me about that show, it felt like they were kind of shy to introduce that idea. So I'm really excited to see that The Flash as a series is not being shy about that. They're really grabbing the bull by the horns on that one, and it's giving us something really fantastic.
One of the things that I think is also interesting about the CW and how they're handling this, and this is, to me, has treaded into the sort of a take good with the bad. It's the CW, and both the Arrow and the Flash suffer minor bits of CW syndrome, which is, it is strangely polished. It totally works.
It totally works.
But at the same time, it's CW, so you're not going to get the kind of grit that you would get with right now. Gotham just premiered, and
True.
It's a different feel. It's absolutely a different feel.
People are young and pretty.
Yeah, everyone seems to be young and pretty. Even older people are young and pretty.
Yep. Older, just young and pretty people. Everyone's got abs. It's all good. Lightning gave them all abs.
Lightning gave them all abs.
So great.
I remember when I was watching The Arrow, and John Bowerman, who plays Tom's father.
Yep.
I was sitting there looking at them. I was like, they got to be about 10 years apart at most.
John Barrowman is a very handsome man. He is, I think, much older than he looks. He has had some work done.
It is also just classic.
Very good work, mind you.
Doctor is an artist.
It's true.
But it's also, like, to cast him as his father, that's a very CW kind of thing. And also, you can even see it in The Flash, where it's like the guy who plays Barry Allen, what is it, Grant Gustin?
I believe that is a close approximation of his name.
I'm circling the wrong way of his name.
That's fine.
He's awesome, totally watchable, a lot of fun. And at the same time, when I first saw a picture of him, and I was like, that is the CW Barry Allen. There's nothing, he is very, like, CW in every respect.
He is adorable, and he is wonderful.
I'm not against any of these things. Yeah. I'm just saying it's a very CW trope.
It is understandable.
Nobody in that universe has got any physical flaw.
On the subject of the CW universe,
One Tree Hill.
It's okay. One of the things I'm most excited to see with the CW and the DC universe as it's expanding in the CW is that they're doing an amazing job of portraying comic book series in a way that the movies can't. Of course, we're getting these amazing comic book movies with Marvel and DC, but with DC's portrayal of these universes in series like Arrow, The Flash, and Gotham now as well, we're getting these longer narratives that you can't really handle in a movie format, and we're getting long-standing narratives more indicative of the classic serials, which I think is wonderful because we're getting story arcs rather than a movie arc, which is very different.
I understand what you're saying, but I actually think it's less the serials and more conceptually what was understood when HBO really started taking off, when you had more show creators understanding that they could basically tell a 12-hour movie.
Yes.
Serials, the early serials were more self-contained adventures that a lot of them ended in cliffhangers, but there was never really a long arc that had any sort of development. What's happening with television now, and that was really started to become pioneered by HBO, and then it's becoming more a part of mainstream television now when you had show creators realizing what opportunities lay available to them, which is this opportunity to tell a 12-hour movie or, 24-hour movie or whatever.
And I think this works so well for comic book franchises because in their original source material, many comic story arcs are done usually in 5, 8, 10 issue story arcs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that fits really well with the idea of doing a TV series where you have a season of 12 to 20, 26 episodes, and you're able to get a major story arc or maybe even 2 coinciding story arcs back to back within one season.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it definitely works well for them.
And I'm loving that we finally get to see that interpretation of these longer stories rather than just seeing them in movies, which are great themselves. But it's good to see something a bit longer that can take its time and flesh out things in a little bit more detail.
Absolutely. And this is not the Flash's first outing to accomplish that. That was actually done pretty well in the 1990 series with John Wesley Shipp, who plays Barry Allen's father, Winchester Allen. I don't remember his name.
That's totally
I remember
fine.
John Wesley Shipp's name. And
But in case that was one of the fantastic Easter eggs that you missed, in the new Flash series, his father is played by...
I feel like you could have only missed that if you've never seen the original Flash series.
I had seen the original series, and you had to point it out to me, because I was like, oh my god, you're right.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I just didn't recognize him outside of the classic Flash costume that they had built for that series.
And looking back on that original Flash series, too, that show did very well for its time. The story arcs were good. There was it was aware of the technological limitations.
Yeah, there were definitely limitations on how they were able to do a lot of the special effects, and they worked around it in a beautiful way. They created more in-depth stories, and they focused more on the character development rather than the flashy special effects.
Right, and
now that's not to say that the new series is doing the reverse. But because they are still focusing,
it's good. They're doing good on their stories in the new one, and
but the effects.
Well, and also they're doing this huge. Oh, the Flash running effects are fantastic.
They're wonderful.
I absolutely love them.
Oh my god, I love. They've done a couple shots of him just kind of out of costume, doing like a normal running cycle at super speed, and just the occasional flares of electricity.
No,
around him.
I feel, and also
as subtle touches.
Jeff Johns is pretty close to doing this series too. Jeff Johns, who writes everything DC now.
Everything DC now. Particularly, my favorite was his takeover on the New 52 Aquaman when it first came out.
His takeover on the New 52 has been great.
Oh yeah. Particularly just the way he kind of revamped Aquaman into this new DC New 52 universe really did my heart good because Aquaman had always been one of my favorite characters, and I felt like Aquaman finally got the love I thought that he deserved from a writer.
What was also kind of cool about the New 52 in general is that if you're unaware of it, the New 52 is kind of the relaunch of everything DC. Most of the story arcs are the same, but it's a fresh new look at them that was actually woven in a J.J. Abrams style reboot, which came from an altering of the universe caused by the Flash and the Flashpoint.
The Flashpoint Paradox.
Which was a great series. If you haven't read it, you absolutely should.
Great series, and they did do some longer-standing comics off of that kind of one-shot, just fleshing out that universe a little bit more as well.
And what's kind of funny about that, too, is that the complete revamping of everyone's life in general is the Flash's fault. And I feel like the Flash's speedster abilities to travel back in time has been great use for story arcs, and also just that you can blame things on the Flash occasionally, where it's like, damn it, Barry, you ran too fast. You've reset everyone's life.
It's okay. I'll run around it again.
That killed me. So in the end of the pilot episode, and it's a logic they use, and It's not too far out of the realm.
No, and it totally works.
It worked. It was just
based on comic book science.
But that's exactly like costumes. You can't translate bright red spandex onto the screen.
I could.
Don't ever.
Going to.
I will cancel your show.
Dan, just don't worry about it.
Run around it.
Don't worry. I'll run around the fabric.
And what was so great is that in that pilot, they had, Barry has to stop the tornado caused by Weather Wizard.
Yep.
And the first thing that comes out is him shouting into his microphone because of all the debris and everything. But his one answer to stop the tornado is just that, "I'll run around it
in the opposite direction.
And
Cut it off at the legs."
At that point, I dropped my cocktail and I was kind of like, "Ooh, we should have looked at that line before that hit the screen."
Also, you just keep drinking cocktails.
I just made another cocktail after that. He's like, "Oh, he's gonna run around a tornado. Let me make a gin tonic."
There we go.
But it works. It was fun. It's enjoyable. And I feel like CW tropes and flaws go perfectly hand in hand with comic book logic. The things that are kind of just like don't quite translate onto the screen, translate onto CW. CW is the medium between real life and comic books.
It works. I think it's worked. They have an amazing way of presenting these stories with a polish that works very well with the comic book universe.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And one of the things that I have to say about John Wesley Shipp as Barry's father, that is a well-preserved man.
My God. He's originally a bodybuilder.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he was a very, very fit man when they did the original Flash series, and it looks like he has been bench pressing since that show.
In this whole show so far in 2 episodes, we see him mostly in prison.
Uh-huh.
And, he just looks like he's been hitting the prison weights hard and probably beating up people.
Yeah, he's taking care of himself in prison.
Yeah, he's a good protein diet or something. But one of the things
shoulders for days.
One of the things that I noticed immediately when I saw how he looks now, I remember I told you, I was like, dude, Evan, this is Alex Ross's Kingdom Come Flash.
Oh yeah.
If you've read Kingdom Come, the pictures that are most famous from Kingdom Come that Alex Ross drew are everyone a little bit more aged and everything like that. And as soon as I saw Shipp in this, I was like, holy crap, that's Kingdom Come Flash.
That's great.
And the guy's still got acting chops. He definitely works well.
Totally does.
Tom Cavanaugh as Harrison Wells, the mysterious paraplegic.
Yeah. Now, of course, spoilers and all that goodness. This character development they're doing with, is it Garrison or Harrison? Harrison Wells. Or Garrison Wells, in case we're wrong.
No, I'm right.
You're right? Okay, Harrison Wells.
It's not or Garrison Wells.
It's one of the things.
This is not a binary choice.
Shush. Just the things they're doing with this mysterious new character are phenomenal. They're building a lot of amazing dramatic tension. Of course, the series is very new, so I don't want to give out too many spoilers. Just know that this character has deep, dark secrets and is definitely keeping something from Barry.
And he definitely has something to do with the future because he has future newspapers.
Future holographic newspapers.
Which is really interesting because we've kind of done away with newspapers in our current timeline, but in the future they've brought them back, but now they're in hologram form. Newspapers confuse me so much in the future.
It's okay. If you are listening to this podcast in the future where there are holographic newspapers,
you owe me an explanation.
And you probably just call them normal newspapers. So,
and they're still using the term paper.
Yeah, it's weird.
Explain yourself, future.
Yeah. I want you to come back in time and tell us about that.
Yeah, say that to my face, newspaper future.
Speaking of coming back in time, we also want to make sure to touch on the subject of the Reverse Flash,
which
Eddie
Thawne, who is a master criminal from the future
in the comic books. It seems like they are kind of altering some things a little bit, or we'll get some other explanations. But of course, in the comic book universe, it is fairly wide knowledge that Thawne is the Reverse Flash from the future, a fanatic
criminal mastermind from the future.
Yeah, a fanatic criminal mastermind from the future, obsessed with the Flash, who has the ability to go back in time. I believe one of the main differences between the Flash and the Reverse Flash's abilities is that I think Flash has a stronger ability to go fast enough to go back in time.
Yeah, now the Eddie Thawne is such a great character.
In the comics, or are we talking the series now?
I think I just said Eddie. Thawne is a great character.
Yeah.
And what's great about it is that he is the Reverse Flash, so his costume is yellow. I just feel like that's.
Now we have.
I can't say it without laughing.
It's hard.
You can tell he's bad because he smiles all the time and he's yellow.
Yup.
So that's bad.
That's man, so evil. Just smiling a lot and wearing the brightest, happiest color imaginable.
Bastards wearing yellow. But so what this now also there's been more than one Reverse Flash in the comics.
That is true.
And what the show has done is drop some really interesting things in our lap. First of all, Thawne is we see what is unmistakably a Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
In the pilot episode when his mom dies and his dad is taken up for that murder.
They take great care to specifically show us that there is a figure in a whirlwind in a yellow Flash-looking similar costume, running around his mom.
Now, right away in the pilot, we meet a cop who is named Eddie Thawne. Now, if you've read the comics at all, you sat right up and you set down your delicious fruit snacks and you were like, Thawne?
I know that name. He's the Reverse Flash.
Let me go back to my fruit snacks while I watch this.
But now here's the thing. Like, that character was originally from the future. So it seems like they are modifying some things for this particular version.
Mind you, we're 2 episodes in, so it's like we're drawing conclusions and we have no earthly idea.
Yeah, this is all pure speculation.
Now, what's interesting, too, is that Harrison Wells, played by Tom Cavanaugh, is confined to a wheelchair after the Star Labs accident, which gave Barry his lightning fasty powers.
Of course. Harrison Wells, of course, being the head scientist of Star Labs, responsible for the
accelerator.
Yeah, the particle accelerator that resulted in the storm cloud and the lightning bolt that gave Barry Allen the Flash's powers.
Gave Barry Allen the Flash powers.
Gave Barry Allen, the Flash, his powers.
Awesome.
Don't you lecture me on grammar?
I'll speak in a stentorian tone.
I do that a lot.
But what's interesting is that Harrison Wells, now in a wheelchair, is incredibly nostalgic of another character who is implemented in Wally West's life, who is the second Flash.
The second Reverse Flash.
No, Wally West was the second Flash.
And the character you're talking about was
the second Reverse Flash. So, and
if you're still with us,
because
this gets confused. The Flash as a character has one of the most confusing sort of timelines.
It is. I'm a Flash fan when I say this, but good goddamn, the Flash is so convoluted, and especially when you deal with a very casual time relationship with time travel that the Flash has. Yeah,
there's a very intermittent casual relationship with time travel, and in addition to that, there are also multiple Flashes. You have Wally West, the first Kid Flash, who eventually becomes the second Flash, and then you eventually have Bart Allen.
Was he Impulse?
Yes, he was Impulse, and then I believe he eventually
became the Flash.
It's entirely possible he was known as Kid Flash at one point.
What's great too about Bart Allen is I think I got this right, but Bart Allen traveled back in time to talk to Barry Allen to help him with his anti-aging thing, and that's what I'm talking about, is that the Flash has got this really touch-and-go relationship with time travel.
Yeah, people age differently. People assume the mantle of the Flash at different points in their life. There's characters coming back from the dead. There's time travel.
And, the Flash taps into one thing that is actually like a entity larger than just the Flash's powers, which is called the Speed Force.
The Speed Force, which does make the Flash as a speedster unique in the DC universe.
And it's also kind of a foil for time travel needs.
Yeah, they really can just say, oh, it's the Speed Force. It's magic fast energy.
I have gotten out of so much bullshit by just I got out of a traffic ticket.
Yeah, I'm sorry, officer.
Speed Force.
I hit a hard pocket of Speed Force. It was just right there in the middle of the freeway.
And he was like, sitting there going, it's like, have you been drinking? And all I could say was, I'm going to run around it. Anyway, I got arrested. But
needless to say, I had to bail Dan out of prison.
I got sent to prison immediately.
I meant jail.
I got sent to prison, and then John Wesley Shipp saved me by beating up some peeps because he's strong.
He's a stacked gentleman. It's okay. We're gonna laugh about that for a minute.
So anyway, they've definitely introduced that there's going to be a Reverse Flash, and if you've trolled the internet like we do, they've actually leaked some pictures of what the Reverse Flash looks like.
They have, and I'm very excited. I think that they've done a really interesting, good job of portraying what would otherwise be a very ridiculous costume.
Now, another thing that we got to point out here is that we're unsure whether the Eddie Thawne, that's the cop, is actually going to descend into madness and do any, or if he's already descended there and he's got some sort of front going on, or if Harrison Wells is actually from the future with his future newspapers.
Yep.
And
his future holograph news
is possibly the Reverse Flash himself, because one of the things that happened in the second episode, which you've seen it because you're listening to our voices.
If you haven't seen the second episode, I recommend doing that.
And stop it right now and listen to it, because I'm going to say something. Harrison Wells kills one of the focuses of the second episode. He's a big industrial philanthropist kind of guy, and he does it saying something about having to keep Barry Allen safe or keep the Flash safe. And it's a level of obsession that's very nostalgic of Thawne. Yeah,
and I'm thinking it's entirely possible that one of the things that Thawne did in the comics was he has his own family tree.
Yep.
And he wants to preserve that in a way. And so, there's, again, all of this is purely speculation, but it's entirely possible that he is trying to preserve his own timeline in a way that leads to him eventually becoming the Reverse Flash.
And it could totally just be us getting this all wrong.
Oh, man. It's so possible. And, I would say beyond possible and I think more likely than not.
Because we're wrong more than we're right.
Yeah. So, keep listening to us, of course.
But, draw your own conclusions.
Grain of salt.
I think
big old grain of salt.
Go to the salt mines and chip off something with a hammer.
Yeah, but again, this is all for fun, and we hope you guys like listening to us.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't seen The Flash, we probably just ruined that for you.
Yeah, I think So let's hold on. Let's run back in time. Tell people that before they listen to this, they need to watch The Flash.
Right.
And then I would say, now that we are done with that, we thank you for listening.
However, we said spoilers, so if you're listening to us and then we also ruined it for you, who owes who an apology?
I think I owe you an apology, Dan. I'm so sorry.
I think I owe you an apology. I'm so sorry.
Dan?
Yes.
I accept your apology wholeheartedly. And I accept the apology of all our wonderful viewers.
I'm going to run around it.
Thank you so much for listening. I'm Evan Atwood, host of Fandom Workshop.
I'm Dan Sullivan, director of Fandom Workshop. Make sure and check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Drop us a line at fandomworkshop@gmail.com. Let us know what you're a fan of. In fact, send us some pics of what you're a fan of.
Yeah, we love to hear from you guys, and it's always fantastic to read your wonderful emails and see your fantastic pictures of all your wonderful crafty projects. And of course, if you have any recommendations for topics or subjects or characters that you'd like us to cover in these wonderful, fun podcasts that we do for you guys, then please be sure to let us know. We love to get suggestions.
We're improv.
We are improv. We are improv right now.
Bye.
Bye.